Hey guys, Dennis Hubbard, Credit Firm Inc. Sitting here with Cohen Hubbard, my youngest son, and he's got a lot of questions. Right, we've been documenting those questions and getting great feedback on it, and I see why. Because we've been doing this since 2009, and one of the things I hear more and more, and have heard, is people saying, "Man, I wish my parents would have taught me about credit growing up, or taught me about a budget or savings, or if they would have taught us that in school. I wished I knew this earlier on." And so here we go. I mean, I think these are real live questions that I think at any age, whether we're a kid and starting out in life, or we're a 60-year-old adult, figuring out a better way to do it. I think that these podcasts will serve you guys. And Cohen had a question today that I think's might sound like a basic question to some of us, but at the same time, I think it's something we all struggle with. But go ahead, Cohen.
Hey, Dad, what's the best way to save money?
So, Cohen, it's a great question. It seems easy enough, right? Just I get my check, I put this amount in the savings, and we live off the rest. But has it been that easy for you?
No, it hasn't.
What do you mean? So when you say that, like by the time you get your next check, the money's spent, or what does that look like?
Well, I mean, I just put some money aside whenever I get paid, and then sometimes I'll put money in an envelope, but that isn't really. I always end up just taking it out and spending it all by the time I get my.
By the time the next check comes around?
Usually a little before, so yeah. I mean, it doesn't really.
Even when you do the envelope, you'll find yourself going
whatever it is, really.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's out of my hands, which it hasn't been, I usually take it out.
If it's accessible.
Yeah.
If it's accessible.
Yeah.
It's getting spent. Something comes up. Life. Social event. A little impulsive. It's frustrating.
It is frustrating, yeah. I mean, I can't really build up a savings, but.
So it's not just you. This happens to so many different people. And one of the big things we want to do, and we'll talk about, is budget. Remind me to tell you a little more about best way to budget your money. But obviously, we need to make sure when we're projecting our budget, we need to make sure we're setting things up that there's less going out than what's coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once you have that established, and again, we'll talk a little more about budget, one of the biggest things about savings is don't make it so easily accessible. The other thing about savings is don't wait till later before you try to save it. It needs to be one of the very first things you do outside of the budget, right? And what I like to do is, pretty much you get paid, twice a month? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like every 2 weeks or every first? Or
every around there, every 2 weeks.
Yeah. And you have bills, right?
Right.
And they come out the same time each month, right?
Yep.
And some of those you have due dates and then you pay them, right?
Right.
So this is what I do because, I mean, I'll never forget. I'd sit down and do our budget, and I'd go, man, if we could only make this much money, then I could save this much money. And then, sure enough, I'd get a promotion or something would happen to where I'd started making that income that should allowed me to save more money, and yet I'd look up and we're back to paycheck to paycheck. I mean, literally everything's spent by the time we get there. And this is real, and I think this is a lot of us. And there's a lot of different programs out there that, the Dave Ramsey puts and a lot of people put out there. But I'll tell you what works best for me is one thing that I learned about myself is whatever I have there in the account, we tend to spend it. I mean, we just do. I'm impulsive. I'm running 90-0. You're the same way. I see you running 90-0. You got a social life. And so whatever's there, you tend to spend. Or you got buddies that ever borrow money?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's hard to loan them money if you don't have it, though, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's another thing. Family members want to borrow money. You got it right here. And next thing you know, your everybody's banking system along the way. So the best way to save money is when you're getting paid, when your bills are due, have it come out automatically out of your account through your credit union. We had talked about opening up a credit union separate from your checking account.
Right.
Did you do that
yes,
already?
I did.
Okay. Well, now let's utilize that. go to the credit union and have them. You can do also your bill pay online. You can go on your bill line and you can tell it every month to send X amount of dollars to your savings.
Okay.
All right. And if you got to start small at first, then start small, but start somewhere. Now, I like ultimately 20%, and we'll talk about in the budget place, but minimum 10%. And we also talk about tithe, and I don't want to make this a spiritual thing, but tithe is important as well. But that take 10% for now and have it automatically withdrawn and going to your credit union across town. When you set up your savings that's attached to your checking, what is it that we all do? We just turn around and transfer it right back into our account. It's too easy.
Yep.
It's the same reason why whenever you were talking about your envelope, well, I like to take cash, and you told me, behind scenes a little more about how you were doing that. The problem is that envelope's easily accessible, and you tap back into it, right?
Right.
And so when we put the money across town and across bank, guess what? Now we got to go to that bank to get the money, and it adds that friction that we need. And if there's a legitimate emergency or whatnot, well, great. It's worth it. That friction makes sense to go down there, get the deposit, and do what you need to do. But have it happen automatically. The next thing I would say to do is set your bills up the same way. I mean, if you're getting a check on the 18th and this particular bill comes out on the, say, 24th, don't do that. Have it set to come out on the 18th as well. So all your bills are paid, your savings is paid all at the same time. That leaves you this much money left over. And a lot of times you're looking and go, well, that doesn't give me any cushion. Well, you'll make it work. You get to say no to your buddy when he says, hey, Cohen, I need $20. Hey, man, I don't have it. You get to say no to buying everybody's dinner. You get to say no to going to dinner and, hey, tonight it looks like I'm eating frozen pizzas, or calling mom or dad to see if I can come over there to eat, right? You'll find yourself working within reason. You will find yourself adjusting to your setting. Does that make sense? And that is the best way to do it, is force your setting. We can work on trying to change all these disciplines about ourselves, right? Well, I need to be more disciplined in this and this and this and this. And this is all true. Well, until you do that, at least force your setting. So now guess what, too? You're not as stressed out. You ever do this? You ever, hey, I got my savings set aside and you start spending the money, and then this bill's not actually due until the 26th. And they come to the 26th, you're short. So now you're having to tap into your savings to pay that bill. Or the money you were going to send to yourself is now paying that bill because you got frivolous along the way. So instead, is this making sense to you?
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, so instead, set everything to come out that you can the same day around the appropriate paydays. And again, we'll talk about budget to where you can do that accordingly. You'll look up, I'm telling you, you'll find yourself adjusting accordingly. You will look up and you've got savings in the bank. And then once you get to about $1,000, leave that $1,000. That's emergency money because emergencies happen, right? Something could happen to your truck, whatever the case is. Leave that money in the bank. Once you start surpassing that, then we can talk about different investments, different things maybe you can do to help grow that money while it's there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But you have got to take the time to set your bill pay and everything up accordingly. You can always change it, but set it up accordingly. So instead of you getting this much money that's going into your account, it's there for a minute and it's gone in a hurry and it leaves you this much money to work with. And you'll find yourself working with it. I mean, I remember, wasn't a year ago, you were making a whole lot less than you're making now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were getting by, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you might have a little more bills now, but not that much, really, if you consider everything. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what you make. You'll find yourself spending it. So if you'll create this discipline right now, then you'll find yourself protecting that discipline all throughout life. Then you'll find yourself going, hey, you know what? I'm going to actually increase my savings now. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions around that?
No, I think that's some good information.
All right. So you got an idea? You got a plan?
Oh, I have a plan.
So you got a plan?
Yeah, I got a plan.
All right.
Just need to get 1,000 in there.
Get your 1,000 put up.
Yeah.
Get your 1,000 for emergency money.
All right.
And then everything after that we can save and start preparing for that duplex.
Okay. Thanks, Dad.